Welcome back to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher. Huge shout out to everyone who checked out the mixtape. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm planning a very similar mixtape coming up very soon, so not going to say more about that. But in case you're tuned into this episode and wondering, wait, what the fuck is a mixtape? Well, hit pause, go check out the previous episode that I uploaded, and yeah, check that out. Maybe you'll find, I think, about an hour or so of new music to check out if you haven't heard it already. But if you heard that, well, thanks and shout out to you. And I know I normally say this a lot, but this episode is really exciting because I got to speak to someone who has a wealth of experience and understanding about being in a hard rock slash metal band and has a really great view on life. So, if you've already seen the title and have clicked on this, you know who I'm talking about. I spoke to Kim from Girlschool, and yeah, it's not often that you get a chance to speak to a band like them, so I had to jump on the opportunity and get on a call with her. You'll hear all about our Zoom recording and stuff like that right after this intro ends. But yeah, if you're curious and wondering what was so great about this chat, well, I found out on the call that Girls School did a tour of India back in 1985. Yeah, what the fuck? I couldn't find anything about it on the internet except one or two websites. So, more stories like that, all in my chat with Kim. So, here it is.
All right, okay, got it. I pressed that now. Yeah, I pressed it. More pressing.
And I think
More
that's a great
pressing
way.
bits and pieces. Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to start off our chat, Kim. First of all, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, cheers, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's so cool because before I hit record, I asked you, is it all right if I make fun of you having to kind of use Zoom and all of that? But I have to ask you, how does
Oh,
it feel after all these years to be doing press like this, talking to people all over the world? Just for some context, I'm based out of Mumbai, India, so halfway across the
oh,
world from you.
fantastic. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Because we actually toured there once, many moons ago. But yeah, it's quite amazing, isn't it, with the Zoom thing? Even though I mean, I'm a total technophobe. I'm hopeless, which is why I'm saying I just press everything and hope for the best. But I suppose there is one good thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, wait, first of all, let's dive into that because that didn't come up in my research. So take me back.
Oh.
When was this that you guys played the India? And I have to hear more about this. What was that like?
Oh wow. Well, it was when it was Bombay, for example.
Yes.
So that was a while back.
Yeah.
And do you know, I'm hopeless at thinking about time. I mean, time doesn't seem to exist with this band. We must be in some sort of time capsule bubble or something, because I can't remember one year from the next. I remember normally what's happened and what we've done, but you asked me what year it is, I wouldn't have a clue. But I'm guessing late 80s, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did all of that come about? Like, was that something that the band kind of showed, or you just like one day showed up and were like, okay, we're in India and we have a show to play?
Yeah. Well, of course, like most British people, our favourite food obviously is Indian food. So, of course, the chance, literally, going there, we just went, "What? Yeah, of course." But it was actually at the time when there were quite a few bands playing there. The promoter, who obviously I can't remember his name now, but he put on quite a few rock bands. I think, well, the Police played there, obviously
Yes.
big bands as well. And then I think Hannah Rocks might have played there. There was us, and then there was, quite a few bands just at this particular time for some reason. I don't know why, but we got invited to tour, and obviously we jumped at the chance. Yeah, we played five different cities. We played well, it was in Bombay, Bangalore, Cochin, and Goa, and it was
Wow.
amazing because we had like a few days off in each place, you know, and just like, oh, it's incredible. Yeah, obviously did loads of sightseeing and eating loads of stuff, food and everything. We'd go into like for breakfast and we'd go, we're having whatever they're having. So it was incredible. Lovely people. We We did quite a bit of press out there, but obviously a lot of people hadn't heard of us there, so we'd get sort of families turning up thinking we were a girls' school, or from an English little girl from an English girls' school or something. So I think we shocked a few people, but it certainly was a great experience. Yeah, really great.
Okay. So I think that's a great way to kind of build on, right? I mean,
Yeah,
clearly you guys have seen, and forgive my word of guys, but you know what I mean, right?
yeah,
As
yeah,
a
yeah.
band, you'll have seen such an evolution in there. And when I came across the opportunity to do an interview with the band, I was like, of course. I mean, there's so much. I mean, first of all, just this India story, which unfortunately doesn't exist on the internet, right? This is way
Really? No,
before
I
those.
suppose it doesn't.
Yeah.
There are a couple of photos actually that are knocking about with the big posters of us,
Okay.
but with Kelly on it. Yeah, that's I've seen sort of people find them from some these old places, don't they? And
Wow. I, I,
yeah,
I, I I
and of
think I
course
have
it
to
was
dig.
quite an incredible experience because we'd turn up and they'd still be building the stage, all like
Yeah.
hand build, all the and it was quite incredible. Yeah, really
Yeah.
was great
So,
experience.
so,
Yeah,
45 years in, 14 albums.
yeah,
How does it feel at this point? I mean, like, just going to quote you back again. Like, time seems to be completely different.
yeah.
Do you honestly feel like it's been 45 years?
No, not at all. And in fact, I didn't even realise it was our 14th album. I've lost count. I really didn't. I didn't even. And as far as the last album being 8 years ago or whatever it was, on stage, I'd say, I'd introduce "Guilty as Sin," as being the title track of our last album that we recorded a few years ago. I'd say, thinking it was about 3 or 4 or something. I just I remember the audience shouting, "It was nearly 10 years ago." I went, "No, no way," I just can't believe it. But of course, in the old days, can't believe I'm saying that as well. When we first had our success, in the early 80s, and we were all young then, sort of 20 odd and whatever. We'd say to each other then, what don't matter where we are in the world or what we're doing, when we all get 40 something, like our age, we're all got to make sure we're going to meet up somewhere like the top of St. Paul's or something and have a big get together, and not thinking that we'd nothing would have changed, sort of thing. So yeah, it was inconceivable for us at that point in our early 20s to even think that we'd even be that we'd even know each other still, possibly, but let alone still hanging out. So yeah,
Yeah, and
weird.
and then that's one of the things, right? I mean, with a lot of the young bands that have these stars in their eyes, they're gonna kind of
Yeah,
make it. With in contrast, you're looking at everything from a very complete different lens from looking back, right? Uh,
mm.
how I must say, does since you're saying you all didn't think about it, how different was your approach on, and I love the name, by the way, WTF45? I mean, like
Yeah,
it's both like tongue in cheek but also like a
yeah.
statement
Well, exactly.
out
I mean,
there.
obviously we don't normally swear, but what the 45? Yeah,
But I mean, listening to your
yeah,
music, I don't think. I mean, if you take away like the promo pictures, you take away the album title and stuff like that. If you listen to the album,
mm.
it just sounds like any fresh, young, new band. There's like this energy. What would you attribute to that energy that you've got on the album? Because I'm really curious to know.
We don't really think about anything. I think it's just we just get in there and do it. It's whatever we've done, whether it's been a great decision or a bad decision, whatever, we've just got in there and just done it and done what we wanted to do. And so we don't go, we obviously we don't go in the studio and go, no, we're going to sound like this or that, or I mean, it's I'm glad that we don't sound like a bunch of old women. I don't know what we do. We just do what we do. Honestly, it's just there's no big sort of secret or big plan or anything. That's why with us lot, that's why it's been so up and down. I think over the years because we've never had a plan. We never really thought about anything. We just go ahead, bulldoze our way through, and just do it.
I
So
mean, like
yeah.
what exemplifies this attitude of everything what you're talking about is the single that you put out. It is what it is. Because,
Yeah.
like, I think that it's also simple in your face, but also there's that catchiness that you, by the second or third time, are just singing along. Uh,
Oh, great. Yeah.
tell me about that single. And did you all have a say in which would be the singles, or how?
Well, no, I mean, basically, I had "It Is What It Is" in my brain for a few years before we actually got round to recording the album, because it was just something that everybody says, isn't it? And especially us, we just go, "Oh well, it is what it is." You know, what we're going to do about it? I just kept thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna have to write a song with this in," because it's just. And I kept hearing it singing around, going around in my head. So of course, when we realised that we were going to have to record this new album, because the record company put their foot down and said, "Right, you've got to get on and do it now," because we'd been putting it off for so long. That was one of the first ones. So, but yeah, it's just something we've always said. And as far as the singles goes, that's just really been the record company. They've just chosen them. We,
Okay.
we just let people get on with it. There's no point in us. So what do we know? We've only been doing it 45 years. We're only in the band. What do we know? Most of the time, we don't know anything. We don't know what's going on. Nobody seemed to tell us anything. So we just sort of let it happen.
Okay, so props to whoever at the record company thought it would be a great single. But for
Yeah.
those who are tuned in and haven't heard it as yet, well, here it is.
Yay.
If I had the chance to do it all again, could I make it right better now than then? Wishing it was different, wish it could be better. Don't regret the past, it was then or never. It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? You can pick and choose, deciding your own fate. You can win or lose, it's never too late. Looking out for signs, blurring all the lines. Forget about the past, tomorrow comes so fast. It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? I'm not gonna let it be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not gonna wait to see what the devil's got in store for me. For me, for me, for me. It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? It is what it is, so what you gonna do about it? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
And that was Girlschool with It Is What It Is. And I'm chatting with Kim, who is actually exemplifying it is what it is, right? I have to ask you also, I mean, with the album, and again, forgive me, but how does the approach all these years later change when it comes to with your songwriting or your recording itself? Or is it basically, if it's not broken, don't fix it? Is that the attitude that you take?
Well, I must admit, we are quite lucky because a lot of bands that we know these days, they don't have the luxury of actually going into a studio. You know, it's most of it's done remotely. So we're very lucky that we can actually still all get together and actually go in and record together in a studio, which we've always done and which obviously we love. And I wouldn't change that. But the thing that has changed, obviously, with the songwriting is, as we were saying earlier, about the Zoom thing. You know, normally we'd have to get together, which was okay in the old days because we all lived in London. And in fact, when we first started, three of us lived in the same street, you know, so
Wow.
it was easy. Yeah, yeah. So, but now, of course, because our bass player, she lives in Spain. Jackie's moved up north, back up to Leeds. I'm moved out of London, just outside in Colchester, and the drummer's not far away, just down the road. So having this Zoom thing, even though it's a bit, you know, a bit of a pain, it obviously is great for stuff like that because Jackie and I used to get together every Tuesdays and Fridays and songwrite. You know, we'd get ideas in
Wow.
before that and then get together and that's how we came up with most of the songs. Yeah, with a good old bloody Zoom.
No, and I love how you like it's that Tuesdays and Fridays. Like you've got that
Oh yeah,
discipline,
yeah,
you've
yeah.
got that in.
Well, unless we actually discipline ourselves to do something, it wouldn't get done. That's why it took so long to do the album because the record company kept saying, "Well, look, you owe us an album," so we knew that, and we kept going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll get round to it, we'll get round to it." And then before we know it, like as I said, you know, we're in some sort of time bubble thing. 3 years have gone or so. Then COVID hit, so that was another 2 years out. And then, so I think that came to about 5, 6 years or something. And then they finally said, they went, no, you've got to do it now. And we suddenly thought, oh, blimey, you know, and they sort of like booked the studio. You said, you're going in then. And we thought, oh, well, we better get on with it then. Yeah. That's what we need. We needed to good kick up the backside to get it done. Yeah.
But I have to ask you then, I mean, like, do you feel things have really changed when it comes overall to music, right? I mean, like, we're talking right now, I mean, of course, a few days after the album release, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of old enough to remember the time where you stood in line for the CD before it came out. There was that whole
Yeah.
anticipation, there was a whole promotion
Yes.
cycle and all of that. And today, literally, it's as simple as I get onto my laptop and listen to
Yeah.
music on Spotify. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's quite sad, really, for the young people these days, because obviously when I was growing up, there was Top of the Pops on every
oh yeah,
Thursday, and that was so exciting. And then obviously the singles would be coming out, and so you save up your pocket money, and like there was record shops everywhere. And I had one just across the road from where I lived, so there I'd be every Friday. There, I'm saving all my money, my pennies to go and get the single, bring it back home, so excited looking at it, put it on the turntable. I mean, the excitement was just, well, I just remember it being incredible, and I think that's definitely must be lost these days. It certainly can't be like that. It's just not, is it? It's not the same.
yeah. I
I mean,
mean, like,
obviously vinyl's coming back now, but obviously, when you got the album, you're so excited to see all the cover and all the bits and read everything and look at all the fact. Yeah, I mean, the excitement was incredible.
yeah. So I also want to quickly add on, right? Because one of the cool things is, especially being a band like yours, is it's also cool that you guys got Bifford, you've got Phil Campbell, you've got Duffy from Guns N' Roses. You got all of them
Yeah.
doing, and I particularly enjoyed that song. How was that something that was written, and then you all said, okay, let's see who from our friends is available to do a guest feature? How did that go about? Also,
Right. Well, I mean, we've always done a cover on each album of a song that we've loved, and
okay,
we have covered a Motorhead song before, Metropolis. But this time we wanted to do a later one, and of course, Born to Raise Hell. we just thought, oh, that'd be great. We could have that last on the album and get a couple of mates on there to sort of, you know, all sing along and blah, 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 you know. And obviously Phil was our first choice because it was even though he's played on a couple of our bits before, this was actually the first time I think that he's played on a song that he was actually on in the first place, if you know what I mean. Not just playing what Eddie was playing. So he was straight on board. And then we suddenly thought, well, look, we've known Biff for like longer than Lemmy now, I think. I mean, you know, just we've done so much with them, and I've never actually done a sort of a duet. I'd like to say, sounds like Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers or something, didn't it? But anyway, duet with someone, and so of course Biff, and plus, you know, it was Lemmy's part, so he came to mind immediately, and of course we asked him, and he said yes. And that's great. We had 2 on board. And then we thought, well, we've never really had a bass player. And a friend of mine knows Duff really well. And he said, he goes, you know, I know Duff really well. And I mean, obviously we never really met him. And he said, I know he was a big mate of Lemmy's and big fan of Motorhead and Girlschool, you know. He goes, do you want me to ask him? And I went, yeah, right, you know, as if. There you go, well, I'll ask him. And I said, yeah, all right, you can ask him, just thinking, you know, whatever. And of course, the next day, Duff got straight back and he said, whatever they need. And,
Wow.
and there you go. Yeah, it was amazing. And you know how lovely he was? He he came back and he sent an email saying, he said, I really hope you don't mind, but do you mind if I do it in a couple of weeks' time? Because I'm on tour in New Zealand and Australia at the moment. He's like asking us if we minded. So, you know, of course we mind. You have to do it right now.
So of course, since we've talked so much about the track, I think we should definitely play it.
Yeah,
And this is a pretty cool cover of Born to Raise Hell. So here it is.
Listen up here.
and that was Born to Raise Hell, covered by Girlschool. I've got Kim, and I must say, one of the few metal memories I really cherish is I watched Motorhead perform in Dubai, and it was loud. I mean, seriously,
Wow.
there's something about like watching Motorhead and watching them in like an outdoor thing and just like really loud. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are memories definitely I'll cherish. Uh,
Oh,
but
that's great.
talking about live, what are your plans? I'm very curious because like I mean, and it's also coming full circle to our conversation about you playing live in India. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things. I mean, how do you look at performing live now? Is that something that you still enjoy as much as you did back in the early days?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. It's it's great fun, especially when when you're touring with mates and everything. Like we tour with Alcatraz quite a bit now because they become good mates, and it makes it just more fun, and you have a right old laugh. And of course, we like a bit more comfort than we did when we were younger. you know, but I think back and about the fact we used to have our own sleeping bags, sleeping on the top of the bloody cabinets in the back of the old van and all that. It was all right then, but certainly not now. No, we like our
Yeah.
comfort, and it's always great when you're going to places that you've never been before. Even I mean, just about five. Well, I was going to say a couple of years ago. Of course, it wasn't. It was like about 5 years ago. We went for the first time to Australia, and
Wow.
so I mean, it was just when things like that happen, it just makes it all worthwhile, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And also like I'm pretty sure at this point you're seeing multiple generation of fans.
Yeah.
I mean, like just to use Guns N' Roses as an example, right? I mean, I watched them many years ago here in India, and what was cool is you didn't just see like people slightly older than me or my age, but you saw some of them with their kids, and that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool,
We
also,
get that.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
also cool
Oh,
just
yeah.
to see.
We've got that. Mums and dads coming with their kids, and of course we've had babies turn up, in their prams. They bring them along with their ear mufflers on, and wearing the t-shirt, the little baby t-shirts, and it's great to see. Yeah, yeah, it really is. I mean, it is quite funny at first when you have someone come up to you and go, "Oh, my dad loved you lot and got me into it." And you're thinking, "Oh my god, his dad," It's like it's a bit shocking at first, but you get used to it. It's still lovely.
But so I have to kind of wrap up with at
Yeah.
least some mandatory questions, right?
Okay.
And I know what I loved honestly, and I must commend not only you but all your bandmates for doing all these social media bits
Oh
in
yeah.
there. It's just so much fun to see, just like how enthusiastic all of you are and just candid, right? So I'm going to tweak
Yeah.
one of the questions that I actually saw all of you do. Um, and again, feel free to share as much as you can. Is tell me what it if you had to go back, right, and look at your younger
Oh
self,
yeah.
the 20s self that you'd say, not advice, but like if you had to go back and just kind of say tweak certain things that you did, or just kind of
Yeah.
maybe with all the wisdom and knowledge that you have now, or at least the understanding you
Mm,
have now back then, what would be
yeah.
something that you would do?
I think my initial response was run away, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's what I
that's
said.
why I love
I went,
that.
run away. But then I think I changed it to no, 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 just well again, I mean, just if you love it, do it. I mean, there's that famous saying, isn't there, that if you love what you're doing, you'll never do a day's work in your life.
Yeah.
So that's if you love it, just then you have to get on and do it. Yeah.
And also, sorry, this just kind of popped in my head, so I have to ask. Um, One of the things, like especially with, I saw with a lot of bands, especially with like death metal bands and stuff like that, right? You'd have one of the things is the lack of representation of women, especially in
Mm.
extreme metal. Has there been a moment or you've seen where you've had younger fans come up and say to you, especially maybe if it's mums or younger girls, that they were glad to see women play?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like
I mean,
let's be honest.
yeah. over the years, we've had quite a few girls come backstage and say that they formed a band because of us. And we think it's brilliant. And we're thinking about time, because obviously when we had our first success in the early 80s, we were expecting loads of girls to come out and start bands. But it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. We wondered where they all were, and it's only been in the last 10, 20 years or something that it's really, sort of happening. So I've no idea why it took so long, but there you go.
Yeah. But I think that's a great note to wrap up this conversation. I mean, full power to all of you for what you'll do and continue to do, right? I mean, one of the great things is that you don't stop. You'll want to continue doing this. Yeah. So really look forward to it. And
well, we'll see how much longer we can carry on.
Well, what would be like full circle to what we're discussing is you guys come down to India and do that entire same tour that you all did back in the 80s and see.
That'd be fantastic. You need to get us out, get us to Mumbai. Yeah.
Done. But thanks so much, Kim, for taking time out and speaking to me. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you. And thanks so much.
And that was Kim from Girlschool. I think, if I had like another half an hour or an hour, we would have continued trading more stories and sharing stuff. And I'm really glad she did that chat with me and was so open. Who knows, maybe we'll do another chat sometime soon, hopefully in India. So whoever's tuned in, if you're a gig promoter or a festival organizer tuned into this, hey, get Girlschool on your lineup, man. They fucking rule. So that's all I've got for this episode. But as always, I'm going to say this again, and if you haven't already done so, please do. Do hit subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, why don't you leave us a rating? I'm going to leave a question. Maybe if there's an upcoming guest that you'd like me to get on the podcast, why don't you recommend them? If you're a band or a label tuned in and you want to get your music featured, hit me up on social media, Trendcrusher, just search for it, or my email account is trendcrusher@gmail.com. That's the end of the plugs. I'll see all of you next week. Cheers.